Hey, it's Dave from Bullpen Cycles, and we're in Ruther Glenn, Virginia at George Ackerman's Moto Barn. It's an open house event with a dirt bike show and several speakers. Now, the Moto Barn is a private museum, and we're gonna go in and get a tour, and I'll film that, and we're gonna listen to some speakers and hear what they have to say, and then we're gonna come out and look at all the different show bikes. We got some heavy-hitting founders of motocross here, so I'm sure they're bringing us some eye candy. We have some vendors here too. Paul from Preston Petty Products, Dan Gray from REMX, Martina Falta with her book. She's one of the speakers along with Barry Higgins and some others. So, before we get too deep in the video, I want to do some housekeeping. I'm going to break up this series into 2 videos because I want you to hear what the speakers had to say. I found some of it very interesting, and I think you will too. So in the first video, part 1, we're going to have George Ackerman's Moto Barn, and then we're going to hear from Martina Falta. Actually, it's Martina Faltova. That's Jaroslav Falta's daughter, who's going to tell us what it was like for the Czech national champion racing from inside a communist country. Then we're going to hear from Barry Higgins. Barry Higgins was one of the early founders for American motocross with a lot of ties into Mako. He's probably got more Mako knowledge in his head than anyone listening. And then in the second video, we're gonna show the mini bike museum. For all you readers that are lamenting that I skipped past the mini bikes, we got a whole mini bike museum to show you. And then we're gonna hear from Reid, who probably raced for every major manufacturer, but I found his talk about racing for ATK interesting. We're going to hear some of that, and then we're going to go on to the show bikes, which you'll find interesting, and then the awards. So there's going to be 2 videos here, and I'm going to break it up that way. And I'm going to do something new. In each video, I'm going to go back to the previous video and find a comment that I thought was constructive or asked a question or something that I felt I wanted to respond to. And then if I read and use your comment on the air, then you're going to get a prize. So this week's prize will be one of our new blue Bullpen Cycles t-shirts. That goes to Bruce Martin 974. So if you're Bruce Martin, send me an email with your t-shirt size and address. I have large, extra large, and 2XL. I don't have medium, and I don't go into 3s and 4s and 5s. Send me an email to bullpencycles@gmail.com if you're Bruce Martin. And here's his comment that I felt I wanted to respond to. Bruce is commenting on my Bultaco Matrella video where I showed all the different Bultaco Matrella models and took one for a ride. He says, sort of interesting, but low on content. And that's what I'm going to respond to. Then he says, the Matrellas I rode, Mark IIs I suppose, had a manual pump in the side cover to inject oil into the fuel tank. Yeah, I think those were only on the first batch of Mark IIs. The oil metering pump, that's called. And if you have a bike with the oil metering pump that you measure and squirt oil into the gas tank, that's actually a pretty rare and expensive piece if you have the oil pump, because they got lost. Anyway, he thought the video was sort of interesting, low on content. And let me respond to that. And I actually agree. Some of my videos are kind of low on content. I'm always hoping for something good to turn out, but none of my videos are scripted. I don't have scenes that are planned out where I buy a $15,000 diesel KLR and purposely sink it into the swamp. Now, that's not to say I don't like bikes and beards, but I don't stage stuff like that. I won't buy a bike just for the purpose of making a video. You won't see me unpacking, at least I don't think you'll see me unpacking a 1975 Norton out of the crate. Actually, I have a 1975 Norton over here. And you won't see me trying to ride some broken POS home 700 miles. I think those videos, while they're entertaining and I watch them, those are clickbait. Everything you see here is genuine. It's me actually going through this stuff, and I don't know when I try to kickstart a bike if it's going to start, even if it started 6 months ago when I put it away. I put bikes away here, and they're old bikes. They can sit here for, some of these sit here for 5-6 years. I bring them up like this Harley and it lit right up. Other ones, they don't light right up and I have a problem. So I didn't anticipate that I was going to have a problem riding that yellow Bultaco Matrella. But anyway, so what you get here is genuine. It's regular guy stuff. It's not staged in any way, and it might not be as entertaining, but it's real. It's me, and that's all I can say about that. This channel is to just share the bike hobby, and with that, we're gonna get back onto George Ackerman's Moto Barn event. So this is like the coffee area, but you got to look at what's on the wall. Here's a little snippet about Barry Higgins. 1969, American motocross was young and struggling to make it out of obscurity. Gary got its big break on the ABC Wild World of Sports. They showed up to film the event, and the European stars who dominated it. But Barry Higgins became an underdog hero to a national audience. As the top American rider, Higgins finished 5th on a 69 Jawa CZ 360, beating several European stars. That was the beginning of the American motocross scene. Gary Trio Landry of Lake Charles took top place in the 250 expert division, while George Ackerman of De Bitter captured the 125 expert class. Here we have the Honda Elsinore section. This is Martina's book, The Stolen Title. How the Russians took the title away from Czechoslovakian rider Jaroslav Falta. Bud's Creek.
And our county got devastated when that happened, because there was snow and all the mountains and all the higher elevations right outside of town. And it was really cold, and all of a sudden,
Roger DeCosta
and Heikki Mikkola. I'm probably boogering that up.
I was there from wherever there was a pressure dam, and people died from the flooding of that championship. And the next, and the loggers that lived near the creek, you know, then they got. What did you bring with you?
Oh, we got a Steen hiding up here. And some mini bike projects. Some old chest protectors. Different view up here. Here's Don on his factory Harley after they changed his name from Rokon Don to the Killer. Stuff hiding everywhere. What's in the box? Scott motocross boots in the box. To Dave, Randy, don't know. Oh, here's a Rokon. I wonder if that's Don. That must be. Oh, there's a Rickman Montesa hiding in the back, and a Gray Ghost, and a 175 Osa. That's actually rare in a 175cc. Not many of those around. That's Steve Wise. He's a preacher now. Oh, here's the Monkey Butt book. I don't know why that's on Amazon for $4,800. This must be the Enduro section. 125, 175, 250, 400. And a CB 350, excuse me, a CL 350. There's Al Roofs smashing his Hercules into a tree. Motocross Donations 1984 support team. Vintage boots, some cool starting line photos. It's Brad Lackey. Steve Wise again. There's a bigger picture of Brad. Steve Wise again.
Because, you know, there's typically, you know, if it's not a slot hole, there's typically traction.
Texas Strokes About Texas Folks. The Journal of Motocross. Look at that little thing. Diamond Don. This must be the Texas section. 1995 ISDE, Poland.
That was going to be part of
I'm well, thank you. The all-new Swiss-powered Yankee. I don't know, does that say M60 MX? What made Brad Lackey give the red the blues? Kawasaki greens. Cycle sport and an old cigarette display. Hey, that works good for magazines. Here's Spugsy Dick Man. Navi Shop, Mako, Norfolk, VA. Leak detector system, Honda. An old shoey helmet.
Martina wrote a book, and it was released a year ago, and it's about the stolen championship that her father, Jaroslav Falta, one of the motorcycle greats, experienced when he was robbed of that championship. And Martina has been able to, through the various speaking engagements in the vintage events that she has been able to attend, has shared with us that type of lifestyle from back in the day, running from communist country to others. I've been particularly fascinated by her stories and being lost in stores and trading tires and stuff at the border and the black market and such. And she is certainly one of the most entertaining speakers that we have heard. And Martina, would you please come up and tell us a little bit more?
So, thank you for the intro. Again, my name is Martina Faltova. You probably heard Martina Falta. It's much easier to connect the two, Falta and Falta. Let me just touch really quick how the Falta and Faltova happens. Back in Czech Republic, I think it's Czech Republic, nowhere else. We add OVA to the end of female's last name because we also only sign as last name. So when you get a letter or email from somebody, you see Faltova, you know you're talking to a female. So I would like to maybe introduce my dad or tell you about how I knew my dad as a daughter. And there we go. I'm getting better at this. I'm trying not to cry, so let's just get it out of the way at the beginning. So growing up, I actually never saw my father race. And that's surprising to many. If you look at the timeline, so in 1974, I wasn't even a thought. My parents did not even know each other then. And so obviously I wasn't born yet. And that's when he was on the peak of his career, when he won the world championship. And then move on forward. Let's go to 78, 79. I was a little kid, and CZs in 78, 79 were not even comparable to anything else out there. It was just the old lady back in the garage, and it was just sitting there, not really doing anything. Move on to 80, 84, where he was leaving the Dukla team, and his professional career was really at the very tail end of it. I was a 4-year-old kid. I don't remember much. I knew that he was racing motorcycles, but I didn't even know him because when he was in Dukla team, they stay there all week. They go race on the weekends. On Monday, he would come home, wash the clothes, do whatever he need, bandage stuff, and back on work. And left on Tuesday, and then I haven't seen him again. And sometimes he didn't even come home because if the races were far away apart, they just traveled from race to race. He was a man of very few words, so he never, how was racing? How was motocross? Yeah, I won. Like, okay, it was okay. Nothing really, there was no pulling, the story from my dad, it was like pulling teeth. It was the hardest thing to write this book, or even the Czech one that I'll touch base on later. Again, he was a man of very few words. I thought everybody does that. I thought everybody rides motorcycles. I don't know what any other fathers do. Privateer is the word I'm looking for. Privateer to leave the country and race on his own. So he would race with Jiří Stodulka, you probably heard about him as well, in France and in Germany, there's nationals. And when they were there, as a communist country, the family has to stay behind. We cannot travel together. And and those times were, that was very interesting for me being a little kid. I was about 5 years old, and there was a race in France where, you know, my dad and they all the motocross guys are crazy. They had this wild idea. Well, why don't we take the kid with us, and mom can take the train. We won't tell the government anything. She will take the train to Belgium, from Belgium to France, and we will meet at the track, and Martina can go with us, and we'll just smuggle her through the borders. So I'm this, you know, 2 feet tall little kid. We're coming up to the borders, and my dad goes, let's play hide and seek. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, okay, we're in the trailer, like how, okay, whatever. So I laid in the sleeping bag, they rolled me into a sleeping bag, and we had a pile of tires stacked up in the trailer. They put me down in it and tossed a bunch of dirty towels and rags that you wear in your pockets when you clean a motorcycle and wipe your hands into it. To this day, I can smell the smell of that rag that was just hanging. That was just hanging out there, and you know, a bunch of other stuff on top of it. And we were pulling through the borders, and with again being in the communist country, you really did not have much of a freedom. And if you wanted to go somewhere, it was always good if you knew somebody, if you know what I mean. And that somebody always needed something a little extra. So Czech Republic is known for their beer and for their crystals. So we always had in front of the stack of tires that I was sitting in, there was a case of Pilsner Urquell. Every time the trailer moved, we go ding 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 ding. I heard the beer noises, all, you know, pulling through the borders. Trailers open up, and I was told, do not move, do not make a beep, don't say anything. And I could hear people walking through their flashlights, looking like what you have. And then my dad came, pulled the case of beer, handed it to the person at the soul control at the borders, shut the door. We pulled into the nearest rest stop. They pulled me out of the stack of tires. I was like, okay, you won. Here's
a beer.
Here's a beer.
That's not far from the truth.
That's true. And so off we went, and
The cover photo on your book with your father looking back, that photo looks like it means something.
yes.
Can you tell us what that means and why you chose that photo?
Good. So that photo should have the book here right now.
Oh yeah, all right, I'll post a...
Okay. It is from 1974. That is when he won the world championship. That's when he finally flew the finish. They threw the checkered flag, and he is looking back. He's actually waiting for Harry Evers to say thank you. And there are 2 stories. We're really good friends with Harry and the family, the whole Evers family. My dad says that when Harry saw everything that was happening in the second moto, how the Russians, knocked him out, ran him over, he couldn't win. When Dad was finally coming and battled everybody out and was going, the moto was almost over, and Harry Evers was the only one in front of him. Harry saw it and let him go. Well, these guys, if you're racing, they don't give each other an inch.
Right.
And So that was a huge gesture that my dad, it's always, Harry always has a special place in my father's heart and in mine as well for that. And I asked Harry Evers the same question, and he goes, no, my seat was loose. I saw what was happening on the track. I knew I could not win the title that year. And when I look back and I saw it was Jaro, and he was so mad and angry and so fast that I got out of the way, so he doesn't run me over. That is Harry Evers' story. It is very significant photo because he was so fast and angry coming in that even my dad said, I don't really remember what happened after the checkered flag. I know I was waiting for Harry to say thank you, but then, I saw red coming into the finish line. So that's that. And amazingly, we were able to be on that same spot this summer. We drove to Switzerland.
Oh, yeah?
Switzerland, me and my mom, and I got in touch with the officials who owned the track, and they came and gave us a tour, and we stood at the same place where he is looking back at the flag. So.
All right.
Sponsored motocross rider. Originally from New York, Barry cut his teeth on the early East Coast tracks, challenging the European masters of the sport. The year was 1969, and the American motocross was still in its infancy. The big break came in October as the NRA motocross came to Pepperell, Massachusetts. I remember that race. I'm sure many of you do as well. An ABC Wide World of Sports showed up. They filmed the event and exposed the would-be American fans to European stars who, at that point, dominated motocross globally. And although Sweden's Arne King won the race on his Works Husqvarna, CZ's sole American rider, Barry Higgins, became an underdog hero to a national audience. As the top American rider, Higgins finished 5th on his 69 CZ 360, beating several of the European stars. And in that one day, singularly changed the perception of American motocross. People realized at that point that Americans, we knew at that point we were going to get them. And so motocross racers were far from the sport's heroes back then, as Barry has said many times. But that changed the sport. And Barry is recognized as that sole individual that changed perception of motocross in the United States.
I don't have any.
You didn't see your family though.
This all goes by, off the cuff stuff. A little bit about what Martina was talking about going in and out of the Czech countries, which I was fortunate enough to do quite often, 6 days races, doing things with CZ and all. And the book, and I told her this the first time I saw this book. This thing, the first chapter of it, which is the part about getting in and out of the country and the hoops and the crap they had to put up with the government, that should be required reading to anybody that goes to college the first year they're there. When, I got nothing against college, but I get a little tired of them thinking that they're better hand out this, do that, give me this, give me that, and they have no idea what they're really asking for. Living in a country that we pretty much can do anything we want, and nobody is standing over your shoulder looking at you going, oh, you're not going to do that, you can't go here, you can't go there. When we went into Czechia, just about every time, a couple times I flew into Prague from Germany, but most times we drove into Czechia, and we went across the border from Austria at Bratislava. I think I'm pronouncing that semi-right.
You got it right. Yeah.
And this is the thing, you go across the border, you pull up to the border crossing in Austria, the guy goes, passports. You hand him your passports, and there's 3 or 4 of us in a car, usually hand him the stamps of passports. He goes, go ahead. Right in front of you is this thing that looks like a dry riverbed. That's probably, you say 50 yards across or so. It's just went down, it's graded down into the actual border between Austria and Czechia. While you're sitting there on the Austrian side, you see a Jeep or something go by with bunch of people, and a guy sitting in the back of the Jeep with a machine gun on the Jeep, driving up and down, doing things. The other side of the border is a chain link fence that's probably as high as this building with concertina wire on it, all kinds of things. So you have your passports, the guy opens the gate in Austria, you drive across the little bridge to the other side, and you get to, if you've ever watched spy movies early on where you're going into some, like during World War II, Germany, Austria, Czech, whatever, the pipe gate goes up like this. You drive in, the pipe gate closes behind you, you drive another 50, 75 feet, you go into the border lawn, which is a covered building that has an office off to the right-hand side of it, several places that, you know, have people to, the guy goes, passports, so you hand him your passports, he leaves. He goes into the building. Meanwhile, there's a guy with a mirror looking under your car that you're not smuggling anybody or anything in. They check everything you have, and the same thing. So you're sitting there waiting for your passports. You're not in Austria and you're not in Czechoslovakia yet, and you have no passports. And there's guys with guns all around you. So that gives you a whole different outlook on things of the freedoms that we have that they never had. And so then, you know, you get your passports back. In the meanwhile, and I don't know if I'm a lip key. Tell us what that is.
A lip key?
Yeah.
Setting
It's
contact.
it's you had to hand them stickers, hats. It was basically paying off the border guys.
Paying off? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, we
term.
used to, they called it a lip key, and fast forward a little bit to that, I remember that you'd stop at a red light or a stop street, and the children would run out, and you'd give them stickers or something from America, and they'd all be shouting that. And I remember somebody, we're driving down the road, we had a car with a sunroof in it, and the kids are kind of running after us for, you know, they knew we were Americans or foreigners of some kind. I was lucky enough that I was relatively good friends with Dick Mann, who was, if I had an idol, he's it.
Amen.
You know, the guy was, you know, you always see this thing, and I did this last year when those guys were talking about, oh, you know, you should be the coach, this, that, and, you know, yeah, they won all these championships, they did that, but Dick was the guy that he rode every single kind of motorcycle race you could ride. He went from trials to, you know, half miles, road racing, motocross, supercross, everything. And he won at every single one of them. You know, and I can't ever see anybody ever doing that again, because now everybody's a specialist in what they do. I don't ride outdoors. I'm a supercross guy, or I don't ride supercross. I'm an outdoor guy. I'm not doing that. You know, and the thing that happened with the racing is it's really nice that it's on TV. It's on. People are going to the supercross racing, and you know, let's face it. You watch a NASCAR race. You watch a bunch of guys go around in a circle till some guy loses it and takes 10 of the cars out. Everybody, wow, look at that crash, that big crash.
Yeah, grab a beer.
Yeah.
They're all empty.
And, you know, and the supercross or outdoor motocross, you watch that on, there's something going on every second of that coverage. There's guys trying to pass, this guy trying to pass, this guy falling off, this guy doing that, this guy doing that thing. You're entertained quite a bit more. The bad part about that is that was what's happened to the racing. The racing is no longer about the racing. It's about what you get TV coverage on. It's about the show. The race is the last thing on the first thing on the thing is the sensationalism, the people, to the people that watch it, and the people that watch it now bring what I call the NASCAR mentality. A lot of them go there to watch, to wait for, you know, for Joe Blow or whatever, do a big endo off the jump and have him carried off. I mean, and that's the downside to the publicity that you get out of it. You know, and I had this conversation with Fred this morning, you know, little Billy wants a motorcycle, so mom's all up in arms. You know, he's not gonna ride this, he'll get hurt, he'll do this, do that. I get him a PW Yamaha or whatever, and he rides around. He's getting to be pretty good around the yard and all that. Maybe we'll think about that, you know, I don't know. Mom's like, her dad or whatever. And let's go to the night motocross race, which I had right down the street.